Hey guys, can you quit trying to murder the president, please? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Welcome to the James Show. That's going to be our top story of the day. So if you got any comments, thoughts on that, of course, I'd love to hear them. But what beats it out here locally is we lost a couple of our neighbors in storms over the weekend. And while the Trump assassination, definitely the biggest story nationwide, this is the biggest thing that happened in your backyard this weekend. WFAA has a recap.
Storms have moved on, but what they left behind is still scattered across North Texas. Debris, damage, and 2 deaths.
Behind us is just some of the destruction in Wise County after an EF2 tornado hit the town of Runaway Bay. That's about an hour northwest of Fort Worth. Our Janelle Ford is joining us live there now. Janelle, what are you seeing this morning?
Well, Dee and Matt, we are still seeing a lot of roadblocks. You see the one behind me. The entrances to the neighborhood down this stretch right here have several roadblocks set up. And that is because this morning officials say that right now, one of the biggest concerns is keeping unauthorized people out of those hard hit neighborhoods. And when you take a look at the video of some of those areas, you can truly understand why. This is what they're dealing with. Homes ripped to shreds, RVs overturned, trees snapped, power lines down, and debris scattered across streets and yards. That is what crews are still working around this morning. The EF2 tornado hit late Saturday night with winds up to 135 miles per hour. We are also starting to hear some really terrifying stories of survival, including one family who had to be rescued from the rubble of their home. Take a listen.
My brother had to dig my parents out of the debris. It was terrible. So.
Are they okay?
My dad has a fracture in his neck. My mom had a broken back, and my brother, he's doing fine right now.
Do you hear the loss of life, the tragedy, the loss of property, the injury? Broke his neck. One parent broke their neck. The other parent broke their back. This is why we do so much weather on this show. This is what on this station. This is why WBAP has the last meteorologist in Dallas-Fort Worth radio. We're doing WeatherCon this coming weekend. Terrible coincidence, but this is one of the reasons we pay so much attention to this stuff. This is the reason why other people pay so much attention to this stuff. You know, some people talk about, well, get out your weather radio. How many of y'all don't have a weather radio? How many of y'all don't have an emergency radio? How many of y'all don't have a plan? How many of y'all don't have some sort of mechanism by which you can minimize the chances that this will happen to you? Because the questions come up like, well, why are tornadoes always targeting single wide trailers? They're not. They're just as likely to hit single wide trailers as they are any other part of the Google Maps that you see on your phone. I guess that'd be Apple Maps, but don't be a jerk about it. Problem is, my brick house can withstand it. A single wide trailer just chilling on cinder blocks, a little more susceptible to things like that. And these people could have saved themselves. Some of these people, I should say, could have saved themselves if they were paying more attention to the weather. If you're paying more attention to the weather, just say like when you're at like your mother-in-law's house and she's in a nice brick house, if you knew the weather was bad, would you say, you know what, we're just going to stay here until it blows over and not go back to our single wide trailer? I mean, lives could be saved by stuff like this. And so sometimes I hear some grumbling, oh, we're breaking in with another flash flooding alert or another tornado watch or another tornado warning. Or this is why we do it. This is why so many people commit so much time and effort to it. This is why there's a reason why every day in every local TV news station that does a news program, they include the weather. This is why we have meteorologists to begin with. You're not a farmer. You don't really need to know when it rains. This is a safety thing. So with that, WeatherCon's this weekend. Come on out, learn more about it. Even if you're not into this yet, maybe you should be. So come on out, and it's going to be held with Brad Barton is one of the hosts. He's our meteorologist. You hear him on the morning show. Also, Pete Delkus, local TV meteorologist, is going to be out there. But you'll get to see some presentations in the theater at the Frontiers of Flight Museum. You know, there's the exhibitions with all the booths and the sponsors lined up and a bunch of activities for the kids. But in the theater, they have these little demonstrations of the new technology and how we're detecting weather and how do you keep it safe and the changes that have come. And the storm chasers tell their stories. This is why. And this is sad because it's not going to get picked up in the national news. It's not going to be remembered. We're not going to go back and revisit it. But two families lost 2 families lost a member. They're going to have empty seats at Thanksgiving and Christmas this year. There's another couple. One of them broke their neck. One of them broke their back. I'm not saying you got to listen to WBAP at all times. I mean, I wish you would. But if you want to keep yourself safe, if you want to minimize the chances that this stuff will happen to you, a little civic engagement on your part is how it starts. I can't do it all for you. But WeatherCon's a good way to do it. And plus, here's the cool part about WeatherCon is how rare does the morning show get out? People don't get buy remotes on the morning show because no one's going to be out there at 6 in the morning to patronize their business or give their business patronage, I should say. So this is the rare one. Number one, the morning show actually gets out of the studio. And I know you all want to meet Hal J. I do too. I mean, I've met him before. The other one is, this is the pretty much the only thing we do on the weekend that's an official station event like this. So if you work during the week and it doesn't fit in your schedule, and I know, look, I've got the job, I've got 4 kids, and so they're all in sports and activities and theater and twirling and all kinds of crazy things. I understand. This might be the only time all year it works into your schedule. So come on out to WeatherCon this weekend. I would love to meet you. I'm going to be there. Morning show's going to be there. Our new guy, Matt Locke, is going to be there. Now, his name is Matt Locke, not Matlock. But you can call him Matlock, and it sounds the same, and you can just giggle to yourself because that's kind of what I do. And I think most people do that too. All right, coming up on the James Show, we're going to have a representative from the National Weather Service take a look at the weather, not just what happened over the weekend, but we are expecting another round. Is it going to be as bad as this weekend? Because I hope not, because we lost a couple of our neighbors in North Texas. 800-288-9227. I'm going to get you all caught up on the weather. Make sure you're safe, and then we'll talk about the Trump assassination attempt the rest of the show. I know once we start talking about that, it's going to take over the show, and we'll never be able to get off of it, and the phones are going to be packed. But let's do this important life-saving info next, and then we'll jump into the Trump assassination attempt. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Now, if you saw all the hail and you're like, ooh, that's kind of close to me. If you saw the tornadoes and you thought, ooh, that's close to me. Parker County, Wise County, listen up. There are some people that are going to need a new roof. When you have the tornado at Runaway Bay, when you have all the other destruction that I saw on TV, go outside and look at your roof. If you're at work right now, when you get home and you're pulling in your driveway, just look up at your roof. If you see any shingles missing, if you see one shingle missing, that's enough of a reason to get the free roof inspection with Blue Ribbon Roofing. If you see that someone else in your neighborhood already has a roofer up there making some fixes, that means they found a problem and their house went through the exact same storm your house went through. You need to get a free inspection from Blue Ribbon Roofing. If you go home from work today or tomorrow or the rest of the week and you see signs in the median at an intersection that say some random roofing company, that means you need to call Blue Ribbon Roofing. Don't call them. You don't know who they are. They could be just some guy who showed up and he's going to be gone next week. But that means someone else in the neighborhood had to get some roof work, and on the way out, they stuck a sign in. That's what that means. So if you have these are the hints that you need to get a free roof inspection from Blue Ribbon Roofing to make sure the tornadoes and hail over the weekend don't leave you with thousands and thousands of repairs that could have been prevented. Go to blueribbondfw.com. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Got some terrible weather over the weekend. Lost a couple of our neighbors, more injured, houses destroyed. Runaway Bay took a bunch of it. Parker County, Wise County, I'm talking to you. So we are not out of the clear yet, I'm sad to say. We have a couple more rounds of bad weather coming your way. Next up, Matt Stalley on the James Show from the National Weather Service. And Matt, it was bad this weekend, but it looks like we have maybe 2 more rounds of weather coming.
We do. The stage is set for, it looks like, another round of fairly widespread strong and severe thunderstorms, mainly during the afternoon and evening tomorrow as we get a cold front down here. We're also not quite out of the woods today either. We just have some slim 10 to 20% storm chances, but looks like most of that will stay mostly on the east or eastern side of the Metroplex this afternoon.
So when do we expect this current bad weather to clear up?
It does look like we'll catch a little bit of a break heading into the middle part of the week. We do have some more widespread rain chances by the late week period, but that looks like it will be more of just a widespread cool and wetting rainfall more as opposed to an actual more springtime severe weather threat like we've seen the past few days.
All right, but the weather that's showing up at the end of the week or in the middle of the week, are we going to get more tornadoes out of that?
It's not really looking like it right now. That looks like we'll have a cold front move through before a lot of that rain gets here. So it'll just kind of be one of those really soggy and wet and cool, just persistent rainfalls that's going to occur probably starting up late in the day Thursday, continuing into Friday and perhaps even into the weekend too.
So is this the last hint of cool that we're going to have, and it's basically going to be an easy bake oven until October?
Well, maybe we can catch another cold front or two yet through the first half of May. It doesn't look like we have any real big summertime heat trying to build in just yet on the horizon. So we can still get some decent cold fronts down here through at least the first half of May to knock those temperatures down once in a while before that summertime heat dome does set in.
All right, Matt Stalley, thanks for helping keep us safe over at the National Weather Service. Appreciate it, sir.
Thanks for having me.
All right, now that we got the important local news out of the way, your assistant or your interim attorney general, Todd Blanche, is doing a press conference with Janine Pirro. And who else is that up there? Talking about the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And he just announced the charges. This is happening live here. I just paused it while I was talking to the meteorologist. So 3 charges are going to be caught by this guy. If you haven't paid attention to the news at all today, and this is the first time you turn on the radio, someone tried to kill Trump on Saturday, right before the White House Correspondents' Dinner, or during it, and the dinner got called off. He got he got a couple rounds off, hit an officer in the chest, but the bulletproof vest is going to save him. After 5 shots fired, this guy has been detained, and there it is. Kash Patel's the other guy in here. Todd Blanche is now announcing the charges they're going to hit him with.
Today, the Department of Justice filed 3 federal charges in United States District Court against Cole Thomas Allen. The first count is attempted assassination of the President of the United States. This count is punishable by up to life in prison. The second count is interstate transportation of a firearm to commit a felony. This is punishable by up to 10 years in prison. And the third count is discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence, which is punishable by a mandatory minimum term of imprisonment of 10 years, a maximum of life, and the 10 years is consecutive to any other sentence imposed.
Hey, this is crazy that in a country, not that I'm on the side of the assassin here, but we're supposed to have a Second Amendment where you're not supposed to, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And 2 of the 3 charges this guy is catching for trying to assassinate our president are gun charges. Somehow that just doesn't strike me as right. Granted, again, I'm not on this guy's team, but that's, I don't know, that feels like it shouldn't be there.
Just to go through very quickly the timeline, which many of you in this room already know. The defendant, Allen, made a hotel reservation at the Washington Hilton for April 24th through April 26th. On April 21st of this year, he traveled by train from Los Angeles to Chicago, and then from Chicago to Washington, D.C.
Thanks a lot, trains. Anyway,
On April 24th, he arrived in Washington, D.C. at approximately 1 o'clock in the afternoon and checked into the Washington Hilton. Approximately at 8:40 on the night of April 25th, Allen approached a security checkpoint on the terrace level of the hotel, which is again a floor above where the dinner was taking place. He ran through the magnetometer holding a long gun. As he did so, U.S. Secret Service personnel assigned to the checkpoint heard a loud gunshot. One Secret Service officer was shot in the chest, but was wearing a ballistic vest that worked. This heroic officer who was hit fired 5 times at Allen, who was not shot but fell to the ground and was promptly arrested. I want to thank everybody.
all right, we can
who
cut it
worked-
off there. So that is the interim attorney general right now, Todd Blanche, giving you the timeline and the charges in the assassination attempt of Trump on Saturday. I know a lot of people's first reaction to hearing that, especially the first time I heard it. Wait, we fired 5 shots at this dude and we missed? Or we fired 4 shots at this guy and we missed them all, but we managed to tackle him? It's a little ridiculous. Do we have a problem with the Secret Service? Granted, Trump wasn't harmed this time around, but that seems almost clownish. So we have this happening again, and we have to have, it feels like the same conversations we had during the last couple of attempts on Trump's life. Number one, don't you love the arguments here? Because one side is saying, can you please stop shooting at us? And the other side is saying, well, this happens on both sides. Not at the same regularity, and you damn well know it. Well, no, look, I found this study that says right-wing violence is far more prevalent than left-wing violence. Yeah, you have a study. I have a list of all the politically motivated violence that happened just this year, and there's not a conservative, right-wing, team red, libertarian, or MAGA person on it. They say, well, look, there was the Buffalo shooter. There was the El Paso shooter. I'm like, yeah, that was in 2022 and that was in 2019. Do you have anything in like the last, 3 years, 4 years, 2 years? Because just this year, we have the Muslim shooter at the Michigan Synagogue. We have the Muslim shooter at Old Dominion University. We have 2 IEDs thrown by the ISIS-inspired Muslims at Jake Lang in New York City. We have the Austin Street mass murder. We have the trans mass murder at the hockey arena in Rhode Island, the trans school shooter at Tumbler Ridge in Canada. We have the Muslim mass murder attack at the Hanukkah celebrations in Bondi Beach, Australia, Charlie Kirk's assassination, the school shooting in Evergreen, Colorado, the shooting ambush at the ICE facility in Dallas, the shooting ambush at the ICE facility in Alvarado, the shooting of 3 law enforcement officers at the ICE facility in McAllen. We have the Boulder, Colorado pro-Palestinian blowtorch guy, the pro-Palestinian murder of 2 Jews in D.C., the Free Palestine guy running over people on Bourbon Street. Look, and that's just in the last 2 years. What do you have anything in the last 2 years? We do not have a problem on both sides here. Can you please stop shooting at us? Coming up next, I'm going to play you some of Carolyn Levitt's press conference that happened at noon today, Texas time, where she was asked about this. And it's kind of the same feeling. Like, well, why does this keep happening? What do we do about it? Donald Trump was on 60 Minutes last night. You'll hear from that. But we've got to have a serious conversation about this, and we'll get an assist next coming up from Casey Fleming from Black Ops Partners on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, it happened again. Another attempt on Donald Trump's life. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Listen, it's not just Trump. We lost Charlie Kirk as well. The rash of left-wing violence continues here, and it doesn't matter what flavor of left it is. It seems the overwhelming majority of political violence, especially here in the last few years, overwhelmingly from some branch of the leftism tree. We had the Muslim shooters. We've had the trans shooters. We had the angry pro-Palestinian people. We've had the people who are angry at ICE, Antifa shooters. And so now this happens again. My next guest, Casey Fleming, coming back on the James Show. And look, Casey, I know you usually wow us with your foreign policy brilliance here, but what are you thinking if you're like Russia and China and Iran and you sure would like to kill Trump, but Americans keep trying to do it for you? Well, what changed? Have the protocols changed? Is it the lesser personnel? What's the difference? Name the common enemies. We're talking with Casey Fleming, Black Ops Partners. Listen, Casey, we really want the rhetoric to be toned down in the political discourse in America. If it didn't stop after the first two Trump assassination attempts and the assassination of Charlie Kirk, do I have any optimism that it'll change this time? To be fair, I think that was before the event on Saturday, because he hasn't had a show since then. So I think, yeah. All right, tell them about Red Tsunami, and then we got to get out of here, Casey. There he is, Casey Fleming. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your insights. Coming up next, more on the third attempt on Trump's life. He has a couple of cuts of audio where he was already talking to the media. He was on 60 Minutes last night. You'll hear it next on The James Show, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Third time, not a charm. I'm the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You're home for Mark Lee, Van Camp, and Robbins. Three guys that were burning it up today right before the James Show started. But Donald Trump, White House Correspondents' Dinner. I haven't actually played the audio. I can't believe we're like 45 minutes into the show. Because the natural sound of this is interesting. What you're going to hear here is a shot that looks like just a live camera that's set up in the corner of the room, kind of in a high position, looking down at a diagonal. And it sounds like I turned the audio way up because you can hear all these people like chatting, and you can hear the dishes and the silverware clanking and people messing with their drinks and having a good old time, a couple laughs in there. And then you hear, because it's almost at the very, very beginning, a couple of shots. And I don't turn the volume down. That's how quiet this packed room that looked like it had. How many people look like they were in there? Like 200 people in there? About? You hear how quiet they got, and just a couple of like maybe a fork being put down because some guy was a little late on getting the memo. Hey, there was gunshots, genius. And that's the crazy part. Is how absolutely quiet it gets. Now, the one thing you can't see is at the front on the stage there's the two tables on either side of a podium. You see J.D. Vance get rushed off by his crew. You see Melania and Trump get rushed off by their crew. And then there's some dudes in camo, and they've got the tactical helmets on, and they've got what kind of looks like AR-15s, although I can't really tell. These soldiers come out and fill up the stage. There's like 8 of them in a phalanx across the front, almost like it's choreography, like they're going to start doing the Roxette kick routine. And that's what you don't see. But listen to how it goes from really loud to really silent. And you're going to hear the gunshots right at the beginning. Okay, that was the gunshots. This is people getting under the table. Okay, so the music stops. I'm not touching the volume switch. There's a room of 200 and something people that are just getting really quiet right now. And I was kidding. Most people aren't jumping under the table. They really don't know what's going on. Now the soldiers come out and everyone knows something's serious, and it gets a little quieter. Check this out. Oh, it's brutal. That is just brutal. Because if you've ever you've probably been to one of those banquets in a hotel ballroom, and it gets really loud because everyone's chatting and having a good time. So Donald Trump was on already talking to the media that night. And I love how one of his first responses to this is, yeah, we're going to reschedule this thing. We got to redo this. I had a good speech lined up. I was going to throw in some real heaters, man. I can't let all this good work go to waste.
And again, they're talking about free speech in our Constitution. That's what it's all about, not just White House correspondence. It was really based on free speech in our Constitution. But I said very importantly that we'll do it again within the next 30 days, and we'll make it bigger and better and even nicer.
Of course he's going to say that. That's great. That's very much on Trump brand. Very cool. That's what we like about him. Good question, though. Because I would like to hear your answer. Why is there another attempt? Why is there a third attempt? At least one that gets this close on Trump. How many did we have against Biden? Oh, that's right, 0. How many did we have against Barack Obama? Oh, that's right, 0. Does that make any sense? If this was a white supremacist dominated country, if this was a racist hellhole like is being portrayed on M. Snow every day, would the white president, the Republican, be getting shot at 3 times, and the black president just skated through? So he was asked, why another attempt? Why do you think there's another attempt? Here's Trump's answer.
I ask respectfully, why do you think this keeps happening to you?
Well, I've studied assassinations, and I must tell you, the most impactful people, the people that do the most, you take a look at the people, Abraham Lincoln, I mean, you go through the people that have gone through this, where they got them. But the people that do the most, the people that make the biggest impact, they're the ones that they go after. They don't go after the ones that don't do much because they like it that way. And when you look at the people that have either, whether it was an attempt or a successful attempt, They're very impactful people. Just take a look at the names here, the big names. And I hate to say I'm honored by that, but I've done a lot. We've done a lot. We've taken this country, and we were a laughing stock for years, and now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We've changed this country, and there are a lot of people that are not happy about that.
Well, there's something to be said about that. You know, the people that get assassinated or assassination attempts are usually people that are doing something big, changing the system. These aren't the status quo people that usually get it. So that's interesting. All right. I like the sound of that. We also have the instant reaction online. It has me bouncing between the celebrities, people that you know, and then just random people that you don't know. And you and I are both interested to see how long these people can see the pattern just nail itself over and over and over. The party of political violence is overwhelmingly left. And I did have someone correct me in the last segment. There was a more recent right-wing political violent act than the 2022 Buffalo shooting, the assassination of Melissa Hortman in Minnesota. All right, that's a worthy correction. Okay, so there's one that's happened in the last 4 years. There's one. Got us. My point still stands, though. So let's look at this is just a viral video of some guy. You don't need to know his name, but he's talking about just converting out of liberalism because of stuff like this.
I'm no longer a Democrat because I'm a liberal. At this point, it's beginning to feel like I'd be better off voting Republican and fighting against bad ideas within the Republican Party than voting Democrat and fighting against bad ideas inside the Democratic Party. For example, when I bring up concerns I have with friends on the right about like LGBT rights, immigration issues, abortion, gun control, more often than not, there is room for finding some kind of a middle ground. But when I bring up concerns I have with people on the left about anti-Semitism, Islamism, communism, more often than not, the response is either intimidation, condescension, or just a demand for complete obedience. When your politics require people to submit to orthodoxy, that is not liberalism. That is fascism.
Right. And they sell it to these people as, love trumps hate. Remember when we were going over that? You got told that at the Super Bowl halftime show by Bad Bunny. The only thing stronger than hate is love. Is this love being stronger than hate? No, you're shooting at us. You don't get to lecture us on love trumps hate when you turn around and start shooting at us. Like, hey, why are you people so hateful? Y'all should really be nicer. God, y'all are evil. You're like literally Nazis. Will you quit shooting at me, please? Why are y'all so mean? We're the good guys. Hey, love trumps hate. Could y'all stop being the party of hate? Y'all are so hateful. Oh, you're just a bunch of bigots. Why can't you be more inclusive? Will you stop shooting at us? Coming up next on The James Show, you're going to hear from Chris Putnam from the Dallas Express. He's done a lot of good work identifying the crazy political polarization in modern American society. But in a day like today, what's more important? He's also a guy that has a White House press pass. He's been in the White House press pool. We'll get his take on the third Trump assassination attempt next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Yeah, how many assassination attempts is there going to be before we admit there's a problem? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You would think the number would be one. Wouldn't that be enough for us to go, hey, what's going on? Maybe we need to tap the brakes on some of this rhetoric, or maybe he's not literally Hitler. Or maybe, nope, still not happening. After it happened again on Saturday, they're not even stopping the rhetoric. Coming up next, Chris Putnam from Dallas Express. Now, Chris, you're in a unique position because not only do you have a political background and, you know, you're a member of the media, the guy who runs the Dallas Express, you also have a White House press pass. So you've seen some of this White House security up close. How surprised are you at how close to this killer got? Yeah, y'all are trying to steal the election. Well, they sell a bunch of freebies here. We'll pay for your college loans. We'll pay for your health care. We'll pay for your food. We'll pay for your housing. We'll pay for your daycare. They have, the giveaways of your money. That's part of their program. Well, Chris Putnam, you are in the White House press pool. Talk about some of the security you've had to go through just to get your access. Yeah, and what? Yeah, Chris Putnam, Dallas Express. these aren't going to stop. Like, it's not that I'm cheering for them or I want them to or I have any sort of great insight. I can already tell from just the rhetoric that happened on Sunday that they're not going to tone down the Nazi talk, and I think this is just going to keep happening. Speaking of algorithmic prisons, I see you did a redecorating on DallasExpress.com, and I'm adjusting to the new format. Yeah. All right, Chris Putnam, DallasExpress.com. Appreciate it, sir. Coming up next on The James Show, retired NYPD Detective Tom Smith on the attempt on Trump's life this Saturday. I'm James Parker, 800-288-9227. It's The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, we're just breaking down the third assassination attempt of President Trump on the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. My next guest, he has a law enforcement background as a retired NYPD detective. Tom Smith coming back on the James Show. Now, Tom, I think a lot of us are surprised. Number one, a lot of people were saying they're surprised he got that close. I've heard other people say, well, he wasn't even on the same floor as the president, so the security detail did their job. Is that how it rings with you? Did the security detail do their job, or do you think he got a little too close? Well, we were listening to the press conference with Attorney General Todd Blanche just a second ago, and he didn't even nail down who got the shots off. So what I've heard is there's been 5 shots fired. Somehow a bullet went into the bulletproof vest of one of our officers, but I'm not even sure if it was the attempted assassin who fired that bullet. Well, when we see that there's 3 assassination attempts against this guy and none against the guy before him and none against the guy before him and none against the guy before him, is there something different about Trump, or do we have something different about our security protocols? Well, it's also one of the differences in this guy is he's not some loser like the guy in Florida or the guy in Pennsylvania. He has an engineering degree. Looks like he's gainfully employed, probably makes more money than me. And so it's not just a loser that was looking for some sort of affirmation to make his life worthwhile. This was a guy who's the level of hate that he was feeling was even bigger than that. Well, is there are we to the point now, Tom, where if you were in charge of his security detail, you would start curtailing his exposure? All right, Tom Smith, good stuff. Where do we find more of your work online? Gold Shield Show. Thank you very much, Tom Smith, retired NYPD detective. Coming up next on the James Show, I have another clip from the press conference with Todd Blanche, the interim attorney general, talking about the assassination attempt as well. And we're also going to address the conspiracy theory that Trump staged this shooting. And how ridiculous is that? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. If this is a both sides issue, why are the bullets only flying one way? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Yeah, we're talking about the attempted assassination for the third time. President Trump, White House Correspondents' Dinner on Saturday. This is the third time. And we're having the same conversations we're having after the first two, which means we didn't learn our lessons. And if we're not learning them now, well, why would you expect this to not happen in the future? I get so many predictions wrong on this show when it comes to things like Iran or what the economy or stock market or whatever's going to do. But I think me and about 90% of talk radio predicted that these assassinations were going to continue after the first one and the second one and Charlie Kirk and now this one. Why? Because we're still being called, you're still being called Hitler. Even after this happened for the third time, you're still being called Hitler. Now, Carolyn Levitt did a press conference at noon today. And one of the first questions that she got, was about this. But even in her opening statement, she sort of tried to front load the answer because she knew she was going to get it. What is fueling this violence?
Nobody in recent years has faced more bullets and more violence than President Trump. This political violence stems from a systemic demonization of him and his supporters by commentators, yes, by elected members of the Democrat Party, and even some in the media. This hateful and constant and violent rhetoric directed at President Trump day after day after day for 11 years has helped to legitimize this violence and bring us to this dark moment. Those who constantly falsely label and slander the president as a fascist, as a threat to democracy, and compare him to Hitler to score political points are fueling this kind of violence. The left-wing cult of hatred against the president and all of those who support him and work for him has gotten multiple people hurt and killed, and it almost did so again this weekend.
Okay, about an hour ago, the acting attorney general Todd Blanche having a press conference with Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, and Jeanine Pirro, the acting attorney general over the District of Columbia. And what a ridiculous question you're going to kind of halfway hear from the reporter. It's like, well, the guy used to work as a programmer in video games. You think violent video games had anything to do with this? Don't you just despise the reporters who are just trying to pretend like they don't know the things that the rest of us know? If it was just violent video games, someone would have shot at Biden at some point. Someone would have shot at Obama. Someone would be shooting at a left-winger at some point if they're all going against one side of the political aisle, except for a couple of exceptions. Melissa Hortman last year, was that 2 years ago? But for the most part, 99% of the bullets are flying one direction. Why would you think it's video games? Why would you?
Are you aware of his video game development past, including a potential shooter-style RPG game?
I've seen the news reports that talk about that. I think that the positive and negatives of this type of case is that there's a lot of people investigating this man right now, including the FBI. But the only investigations that truly matter in the court of law are the ones that Director Patel and his men and women are doing. So we'll wait for them to do that and get an answer.
How does he see? This is what you like about Trump, because Trump would go, "What a stupid question! I can't even believe you. You shouldn't even be in the media. Who let you in here asking a question that's stupid?" But now he's a lot more mature than I am. More mature than Trump is as well. No, it's not the heated rhetoric. It's not calling him Hitler for 10 years. It's not calling him fascist for 10 years. It's not ginning up with all kinds of hate speech. He's a rapist. He's a pedophile. He's literally Hitler. He's killing Iranian schoolgirls for sport. I think that has a lot more to do with it than the fact that at some point your boy played Call of Duty. 800-288-9227. This is Chris in Fort Worth. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Hey, what's going on? You have the best show because you let people call in.
I think everybody does, don't they?
Yeah. No, not like you.
Okay.
But anyway, I was driving home from work middle of last week before the dinner, and I listened to Bill O'Reilly's talking points, and he had pointed out that there was a letter, Dan Rather and Sam Donaldson, those old timers, they had signed it too. But the point of the letter was, I got to read this verbatim here, was to forcefully demonstrate opposition at the at the dinner, and there's too many clowns on the left that, just like your caller about 10 minutes ago, his point was that there's people that are like, should I do something or should I not? And the press is, they're instigating a lot of this. Imagine if we had a free press in this country, a fair and free press. The country would be entirely different than what it is, but we just don't.
But Chris, how do we do that? How do we get a free and fair press?
I don't know. The only thing is educate the people, but people are dug in on the left and the right. I quit watching Fox News a long time ago, but I am still very conservative.
Well, listen, Chris, the reason why I ask that is I like to listen to people's answers to that, because it invariably comes back to the same forks in the road. Number one, the one way you don't want to do it is through government regulation, because that's the opposite of a free and fair press. The more the government regulates it. So how do you get the media regulating itself to a better degree than what it's doing now? Because what we would like to see is like what happened with the N-word. No one had to outlaw the N-word for people to stop saying it. No one had to come up with some new government policy or new government agency or some fine or anything like that. We all just decided as a society that we're no longer going to tolerate that in the public sphere. And if anybody says that, then they get destroyed. They get called out by the public at large. They probably lose their job. They have to get behind a podium. They have to apologize. And until the general public, we as a people, decide to do the same thing about fake Nazi comparisons or so-and-so's literally Hitler, there's not a whole lot we can do. Now, if you want to attack the roots of this weed, and I just mean that as, a plant metaphor, it all comes back to the amount of government money that's going into our schooling system. Of course, our colleges are going to crank out people who hate Republicans and anyone who wants to limit the size and scope of government. It is a government agency funded by government tax dollars at 3 different levels, on government buildings, on government property, with government teachers getting government paychecks. Even the football coach is a government employee. So you think they're not going to come out being full of big government ideas? Same thing with public schools. So look, the answer doesn't seem to be very connected in my book. Number one, there's not a whole lot we can do, but the little we can do involves getting every single public dollar out of education possible. And let's see if that works a little bit more.
I feel like this would be scratching the surface toward this, because it's going to take a hell of an initiative, and it's a extremely uphill battle.
Yeah, but Chris, look, if you cut off the education indoctrination problem, then all these idiots that just spill out into the media after college who are all on Team Blue, that ends. All the academics who are just inherently on the big government side, Team Blue side, that all the incentives for that ends. All these administration officials who are doing DEI policy and Title IX and everything but educating your kids, those all go away.
I feel like it's a three-headed snake. That's one of the heads. Another is media. I mean, media is huge, and people just eat that up, I mean, just follow the money, and the money circulates back to NGOs, and it's a big circle jerk, and it's just, there's 3 heads to the snake,
Well, you're right about the NGOs. Media. That's another good point, too, there, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a hell of an initiative. It's going to be, and somebody like Trump is too divisive. I love his policies, but he's too divisive. I don't know who the next president is going to be, left or the right. But
I think, look, here's an ugly secret. I think we're going to need someone even more divisive to get this done, because we had nice guys before. Mitt Romney was a super nice guy. He was the biggest dork we've ever ran in my entire life. John McCain was a super nice guy. George W. Bush was a nice guy. Bob Dole, nice guy. That didn't get us any progress. That took us in the wrong direction. So maybe we need to find a guy who's even more of a jerk than Trump.
Can that be done? No, he's a jerk.
Hey, you could vote for me. There's a lot of people who would say that old Parker fits that bill. And try and get me fired from emails like once a week. I'm having to hear from a manager about something. My name's, James at WBAP.com. You can just email me. You don't have to email my bosses and my CEO and the board of directors and crap. They shouldn't even know my name if it wasn't for you people. All right, so what do we do to fix this? There's a third Trump assassination attempt. It seems like they're hesitant to even admit there's a problem. You're going to hear Keith Olbermann say, hey, maybe the whole thing was staged, next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. So are we going to end the hate speech against Team Red, or are we just going to let these assassination attempts keep happening? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Carolyn Levitt did a press conference while you were at lunch today, and she gave Jimmy Kimmel as an example of how the rhetoric needs to stop.
Much of the manifesto of the would-be assassin is indistinguishable from the words that we hear daily from so many. For example, as the First Lady of the United States pointed out this morning, just 2 days prior to the shooting, ABC's late-night host Jimmy Kimmel disgustingly called First Lady Melania Trump an expectant widow. Who in their right minds says a wife would be glowing over the potential murder of her beloved husband? And having experienced what I did with the First Lady on Saturday night, I can tell you that she was anything but that. This kind of rhetoric about the president, the First Lady, and his supporters is completely deranged, and it's unbelievable that the American people are consuming it night after night after night.
And I'm tired of that being the premise for a punchline. Why is that a funny joke? Because everyone hates him. Well, that's not funny. You're just a hateful little twit. Mike in Waxahachie, you're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
Okay, yeah, how you doing? That's one of the points I was gonna make. Somebody needs to take a look at Mr. Jimmy Kimmel. Why would he say something like that if he didn't have any inside information about possible shooting of Donald Trump?
Bro, because
that's very suspicious.
It's not suspicious at all, Mike. It has been an absolute Trump hate fest every day for 10 years.
Yeah, well, it's suspicious to me. Okay, now let me make this comment right quick. You might not agree with me, but I've talked to people today at my job, and I've talked to other people about this, and it looks more to me, like my grandfather say, one time is a mistake. The second time it might be another mistake. The third time is definitely not a mistake. Now I'm gonna say this, and I don't have proof to back up what I'm saying, but I'm going by the previous other two attempts on Donald Trump. I think that as I told your call screener, first of all, we don't have enough Secret Service agents. They've already admitted that this government shutdown, there are actually people that protect the president that are not being paid right now. Now, that's not a good scenario to begin with when you have people that protect the president not being paid. Now, me personally, I think, and I told other people this, and I'm going all the way back to the shooting in Pennsylvania, I think that there's a mole in the Secret Service. I think that there's somebody in the service that that's not doing the job. Because that man, you go back to Pennsylvania, the guy climbed up on the roof, up a ladder with a gun on his, and several people reported to law enforcement they saw a guy on the roof in eyesight of Donald Trump, and nothing was done about it until a shot was fired. Something in that way, and a woman was fired from the lady that was in charge of the Secret Service. I believe that somebody working for Donald Trump doesn't have his best interest at hand, and I'd like for you to give me an opinion on what you think about that, because there is no way that a guy should travel all the way from California to Washington, D.C. on a train with a gun and then enter a hotel room and then walk down 10 flights of stairs to almost to the ballroom with a gun and then try to run into a room with the president, the vice president, his wife, and anybody else important to the United States of America with a weapon. It's just something that's not right about that. There's a lack of security for Donald Trump. And especially one last thing I want to say,
sure.
Especially since we're at war with Iran, that Iran has already made it known that they want to eliminate Donald Trump. Donald Trump should have ultimate security at this point right now. There should be no way in hell anybody should be within vicinity of Donald Trump with a weapon, especially in the United States of America and in Washington, D.C. And I thank you for taking my call.
Oh, no, great call. So, Michael Waxahachie, let me address your first points there. Do I think the shutdown has any effect on it? Maybe some effect. I will admit it's not the optimal position to be in, that they've been missing checks for 58 days or whatever it is. But I don't think there was anyone that was supposed to be at their post that wasn't there, or anyone there that was at their post going, I don't think I'm going to do my job because I hadn't got paid. Granted, your point stands, though. It would be better if they did get paid on time. The reason why I don't put a whole lot of stock in that is because the other two assassination attempts, they didn't happen during a government shutdown. So I don't think the government shutdown is the linking factor that ties these threads together. I think it is the rhetoric. And I think it is that whenever you tell just the general public, he's literally Hitler. He hates women. He hates gays. He hates minorities. He hates foreigners. And he hates basically all these other constituent groups, many of which crazy people are a part of, then any rational person could say irrational people are going to hear this and act on it. So I really hate to be oversimplified here, but I think it really does just come down to the rhetoric far more so than the government shutdown. Although I can't deny that has some influence on it. In fact, that was the first thing my dad said to me. He'd be like, it might be a good idea to pay the people. Yeah, I can't argue with that. Thank you, Mike and Waxahachie, though. You bring up points that I saw a lot of commenters making as well. Coming up next on The James Show, Keith Olbermann says it was staged. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Are they really saying it was staged? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Welcome to the James Show. And after the third Trump assassination attempt, you and I are trying to have a conversation here about, hey, can we turn down the dialogue on the whole Nazi thing? Can we turn down the dialogue on the whole Hitler thing? On the whole Islamophobe, homophobe, transphobe, whatever phobe, just evil bigotry? Can we just stop it? People keep shooting at us. We've lost Charlie Kirk. They've tried to kill Trump 3 times. There's all kind of violence in the streets. They're shooting up our churches. They're shooting up our schools. They're shooting up now our correspondence dinners. They're shooting up hockey arenas. They're shooting up the Hanukkah celebrations on the beach. They're shooting up our ICE facilities. They're shooting up 6th Street. Can someone please tap the brakes on all the over-the-top rhetoric? No. Not only will they not admit there's a problem, there's a lot of people on the left that won't even admit that this was an assassination attempt. Keith Olbermann, ESPN legend, who totally tarnished a really good sports career with his MSNBC show and political activism hints, thinks that this was staged.
The not an assassination attempt at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The acting attorney general said the alleged perp, quote, was stopped before he got anywhere near the president. So not an assassination attempt, per the acting attorney general. However, on the new Monday Countdown podcast, call me a cynic, but I'm beginning to get a sense that you may have some doubts about this not an assassination attempt security breach. That among my fellow Americans who are not in the Trump mass hypnosis cult, I may be in the minority because I don't think it was staged. Just because an hour beforehand Caroline Leavitt told Fox, quote, there will be some shots fired tonight. That's a coincidence. Just because Trump has gone insane about his, quote, militarily top secret ballroom, and the next thing you know, he's going to a ballroom, and after that, the Secret Service screws up the security at the ballroom, and after that, Trump's holding a press conference saying this is why he needs that ballroom, and all his sock puppets are tweeting about the ballroom. Coincidence. Just because Trump and his filth have lied to you about everything, every day for 11 years, that's no reason for you to get cynical and think that was staged. Just because on January 6th, Trump screamed, fight like hell, and then in Butler he shouted, fight, fight, and then Saturday at his news conference he went back to saying just that he fought like hell. It's a coincidence. It's all a coincidence.
All right, a response to this comes from Matt Walsh from the movies Am I a Racist and What is a Woman? He says, just to be clear, the theory that leftists are running with is that the Trump administration somehow convinced a registered Democrat to volunteer to go to prison for the rest of his life so that they could use him as a patsy for a third staged assassination attempt, one that they apparently believe was concocted mostly to justify building a White House ballroom that's already being built anyway. That's their theory of the case here. Thank you, Matt Walsh. I think he said in just 2 sentences, actually, is that one big long run-on sentence? Yeah, that's 2 run-on sentences there. That would have taken me a whole paragraph to say, but that's the brilliance of it. None of that makes sense. None of it, your conspiracy theory does not make sense. If it was a setup, wouldn't they have killed him? Why would they leave him alive? So now they have a permanent liability hanging over their head for the rest of their life? That doesn't make sense. How could they convince this guy to do it? The guy who has a social media history of being overwhelmingly left. He's on Blue Sky, which is like woke Twitter. And then all of his rhetoric, the manifesto, all that. No, it's all set up. It's all patsy. Just a coincidence. Carolyn Leavitt said there's going to be shots fired. Yeah, that kind of is a coincidence. You know, when people go to comedy roast, shots fired is a pretty common vernacular. But also, why was he focused on the ballroom? What the hell does that mean? Now, there was something interesting where a bunch of right-wing influencers all tweeted something about the ballroom on Saturday night. It wasn't a copy and paste job like we've seen other montages put together. But I do get the feeling that someone's on a group chat. Someone's on a group chat with the White House because they all had that exact same reaction at the same time. That's not believable. At least they had their own original thoughts and how they were going to word it on Twitter, but I think there is something to the group chat theory. However, Matt Walsh just knocks that out of the park. This is to justify a ballroom that's already being built. You don't need to do this. So that falls flat on its face. The disappointing part about that, if they can't even admit there's an assassination attempt, then we don't get to have the conversation on why does this keep happening and what can we do to stop it. So we're not even getting to square one when it comes to improving the political agitation that caused this in the first place. Coming up next, the one man who can explain that mindset better than any other man I have ever discovered. Former comedian, writer, and now political satirist Evan Sayet will be on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, let's put to bed this whole both sides argument. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP, because after the third assassination attempt on Donald Trump in the last couple of years, there's a lot of people who are saying, can we finally have the conversation about toning down your rhetoric because it's out of hand and it's causing violence? But when they say it's happening on both sides, that is them giving themselves permission to not admit that there's a problem to begin with. And then there's no way they're going to tone down their rhetoric. Why would they? There's not a problem. So how do we explain this mindset where people say, well, Melissa Hortman, or they'll say Buffalo, or they'll say El Paso, or they'll say Timothy McVeigh, and they'll bring up sort of the exceptions to the rule when it comes to political violence here? Because you and I can look in just the last couple of years. Yeah, they can bring up maybe 3 or 4 examples over the last 20 years. We have like 15 examples over the last 5 years. The Muslim shooter at the Michigan synagogue last month, the Muslim shooter at Old Dominion University, the 2 IEDs thrown by the inspired Muslims at the Jake Lang protests in New York City in front of the mayor's house, the Austin Street mass murderer, the trans mass murderers at the Rhode Island hockey arena, the Tumbler Ridge School in California, the ICE facility in Alvarado. We had the other shooting at the ICE facility. Charlie Kirk's assassination, the first 3 Trump attempts. So what makes these people not be able to process that information in their head? Evan Sayet can answer that better than anybody else. Welcome back to the James Show, Evan. We need you today, bud. Explain to people who aren't familiar with the unified field theory of liberalism how their brain works like that.
Indeed, but before we get there, there's a way to prove that it's not both sides. And that was William Buckley had a great way of doing this. He said, any group of any size is going to have its lone crazies. The way you can tell if that person is actually a lone crazy or a reflection of the movement itself is the response of the mainstream to the crazies. And the fact that the political left doesn't condemn violence. I mean, perhaps they'll give it lip service for a moment or two, but they'll immediately return to the very same rhetoric or say it's both sides, which you're exactly right. It gives them a free pass. But when they are cheering the death of Charlie Kirk, when they are upset that the gunman in Butler didn't succeed, and this isn't just the assassin or the would-be assassin. This is the mainstream of their movement. And again, you can tell whether an act of a crazy is a reflection of the movement by the response of the mainstream. So no, our side condemns violence at every turn. Their side does not.
So I know you can't explain how Keith Olbermann thinks this is all a scam and whatnot, but we kind of write people like that off. The Rosie O'Donnells of the world, we're never going to change their mind, and it's not even worth your energy to a try. But what about the person that works down the hall from us? Or what about our brother-in-law? Or what about these people that are close to us that believe or at least go along with these crazy things? How do you explain that?
Well, it's because they literally do not give it any thought at all. And therefore, everything has to be not only both sides, but both sides equally. Everything has to be exactly equal because otherwise they're engaging in discriminating thought. And that is the one evil to the political left. You're not allowed to engage in discriminating thought because they conflate discrimination as in using your mind to recognize differences, as in she's a discriminating shopper, and the evil of having discriminated. So in order to eliminate the evils of discrimination, they've eliminated their ability, their desire, their willingness to engage in discriminating thought. Therefore, it's both sides is a preordained answer that requires no investigation, requires no thinking, requires no evidence. It's simply a given that it's both sides that are at fault.
All right, we're talking with Evan Sayet. You can find his work at evansayet.com, but he's also the guy that explains this mindset that really just seems to defy logic for most of us, but is really the dominant mindset in the media, in academia, in movies, in music, in your favorite professors. And, it's easy to see how some of these people grow up and then live in this information bubble. How do we pierce that, Evan?
Well, it's very, very difficult to pierce it, partly because the political left has a problem. They can't tone down their rhetoric because they have nothing to run on, nothing to campaign on. There's nothing that they believe in that they can argue for in the affirmative. Vote for me because I have these better programs. Here they are. So the only way they can win an election, the only way they can rise to power or maintain power is by rendering the other side so far beyond the pale that you vote against them no matter what. So they have to continue to portray us as Nazis, as fascists, as Hitler, because if they portrayed us as good people who just happen to be wrong, then the populace, the voting populace would say, oh, okay, how are they wrong and why are you better? But the left is incapable of saying, hey, here's my policy and this is why it's better, because the Democratic Party, the political left, does not believe in anything. They are entirely they're against the police, defund the police. Okay, but what are you going to do to protect us in that stead? All right, open the borders, no border. Okay, but how are you going to protect us in its stead? There is nothing that they are actually for. They are only against things, and therefore the only way for them to maintain power is to ramp up the rhetoric to the point where we are considered beyond the pale. And at a certain point when we are beyond the pale, that not only justifies, it almost morally requires violence against us.
Right. Punching Hitler is not a sin. Punching an innocent person, obviously a sin.
That is correct. Or even just punching a guy a good person who happens to be wrong. Right? That's how you're supposed to argue. My opponent is a good and decent person who wants the best for America, but he happens to be wrong. Here's what's right. But again, since they don't believe in right, they don't believe in right and wrong. Their entire effort across the board is the negation of policy. All right. And I always go back to John Lennon's Imagine. All right. He imagines that you negate all philosophies, all culture, all countries, all religions. You get rid of everything. Okay. But what do you replace it with? And all he can say is use your imagination. All right. They can't offer anything in the affirmative. So the only way for them to win power is by arguing in the negative against us and rendering us, again, so far beyond the pale that they don't have to offer alternative policy. All that's important is that we be disempowered.
I haven't talked to you since the Southern Poverty Law Center story broke out. And if you put these two together, the Southern Poverty Law Center is stoking and fomenting and highlighting hate in America and making it seem much bigger than it is. And it's kind of hard not to think that maybe this played into the current assassin's motivation.
Oh, there's no doubt. And by the way, there is nobody who did not know that this is the kind of thing the SPLC does. They are and have never been a legitimate organization, not since perhaps soon after its founding. It has simply been yet one more way to attack, to sully, to render any voice of opposition so far, so evil that we must defeat the evil as opposed to them offering us anything that's good. So the SPLC didn't surprise me in the slightest. And, James, you know me. I am extremely well connected and active in the political world, all the way from my local Women's Republican Club that I speak to, all the way to the White House, who I write for. And I have never come across a Nazi movement. I have never come across, not in any of these venues or forums. And yet, according to the Biden administration, we are the single greatest threat to America. So somewhere between the reality that I know and the lies that they're putting out there had to have been an organization that fronted for them, and that was the SPLC.
Well, it's also just on its face a fraudulent organization because the Southern Poverty Law Center doesn't provide legal services for poor people in the South, right? And that's its name.
Right. Indeed. Just like Planned Parenthood doesn't provide health care for women.
Yeah, it's when you unplanned don't want to be a parent, right? It's just the exact opposite. All right.
Well, the modern liberal is always not only wrong, but the very opposite of right.
Right. And you can find more of this by Evan Sayet's first book, The Kindergarten of Eden, How the Modern Liberal Thinks. And then once you read through that, and it's not a long book, it's 100 and something pages, then you can go ahead to square two next time Evan Sayet is on and join us there past the primer stage. Thank you very much, Evan Sayet.
Of course, James. My pleasure.
All right, good stuff over there. Coming back on the James Show, we'll continue talking about the third assassination attempt on Donald Trump. But I'm going to go revisit what Scott Adams said. He is the creator of the Dilbert comic strip series. He did some words of wisdom after the Charlie Kirk assassination. And this was when Scott Adams was already in his terminal phase. So he was just totally filter off, mask off. And it applies almost perfectly to what happened this weekend. You'll hear it next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. All right, let's judge the reaction to the third Trump assassination attempt. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Because, look, things are going to happen like this, and it's not going to be something that we remember in the public consciousness and conversation forever. But while we're here, while we're on it, before we get our attention span pulled away by something else, is anything going to be different this time around? Or is it going to be the same as the two previous assassination attempts? And you could throw in the assassination of Charlie Kirk as the same conversation we were having then. You remember, just last year, last September. So the reaction to this is something that you might find ghoulish, but here is a montage that was put together of our friends on Team Blue celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk last year.
We got Charlie in the neck, in the neck. We got Charlie in the neck.
Charlie Kirk just got shot in the neck. Hey, ooh, ah, ooh.
He had it coming. He only had himself to blame.
Charlie Kirk got shot and he's dead. Charlie Kirk was a Nazi. And you know what kind of Nazi is the best Nazi? A dead one. Thank God that stain of a person is no longer in this world.
Shot right in the voice box. I might be 1% less atheist today.
I don't care that he was a person. He wasn't to me. I think he's better off gone. So be it.
This is so bad. This is so bad.
Shut the up.
Thoughts and prayers. Rest in smoke, Charlie Kirk.
Popped for talking outside of his neck.
I think the only thing that went wrong that day was that Trump wasn't standing behind him getting a secondhand bullet.
This is poetic. My thoughts go out to that pew pew having to look this.
All right, that's enough of that. The surprising part of the reaction isn't just the ghoulish reaction. It's the fact that these people are comfortable turning on their phone, pointing it at themselves, and saying these ghoulish things and putting it on a social media platform as if they're not the sickos. Now, Scott Adams, the guy who created the Dilbert comic strip, turned into a political commentator later in life. We just lost him to cancer earlier this year. His reaction to the reaction of the Charlie Kirk Association applies perfectly here. The hypnotized Hitlerians is what he calls them.
So there are numerous stories of teachers and people associated with schools of various types who are getting canceled, meaning fired, for saying horrible things about essentially being happy or saying it was justified that Charlie Kirk got assassinated. Well, let me tell you the thing that is most shocking about that. The most shocking thing is that the people who spoke out that way believed they wouldn't get fired. I think they were all surprised, which means they've been living entirely within a bubble in which they thought other people would agree with that. Are you kidding me? They thought they were in the bubble of reality where, let's say that Hitler was an American and he died. Would you feel bad about saying, thank God Hitler died? No, you wouldn't, because you would assume that almost every single person would agree with you. So it would be easy to say that. These people are saying it in public for the world to see as if that's what a normal person would think. How hypnotized would you have to be? I think of these people as the hypnotized Hitlerians. But the Hitlerians are people who live in this little world where they think Hitler actually came to power in the United States because so many bad people on the left have been saying that. People who should know better. So I actually have some weird empathy for these teachers getting fired for saying horrendous things about Charlie Kirk, because they actually think they're in a different reality than they are. How do you think you're in a different reality? Is it because you individually had some mental problem? Probably not. It's probably really a predictable outcome of the rhetoric that we're seeing from the left. It's the most predictable outcome, that people would believe it as literal, all the Hitler stuff. Oh, it's literally as bad as Hitler. We better do something about it. So I would say the people getting canceled are, in their own way, although, our system is that you have to hold them responsible. I'm not saying they're not responsible. They are responsible, but they are also victims because they've been hypnotized to believe something hideous. Imagine them going through life thinking that they live in a world that had been taken over by some Hitler character. I don't even know what that would feel like, but it would certainly distort your opinions and actions.
Yeah, it would be terrifying. It'd be absolutely petrifying, really. All right, coming up this Saturday, Blue Ribbon Roofing has WeatherCon 2026 coming at you at the Frontiers of Flight Museum. That's just on the east side of Dallas Love Field. It's happening this Saturday, May 2nd, 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. There is free parking, free attendance, and the first 200 people get a WeatherCon swag bag, and it's got a WeatherCon hat. In fact, I heard Matt Locke and Brad Barton talking about it on WBAP this morning. I came in and I said, I want a WeatherCon hat. And they said, fine, Parker, we'll get you a WeatherCon hat. We have plenty. You don't have to act like a baby. So come on out, and if you're one of the first 200, you can get a WeatherCon hat just like me. Coming up next, you'll hear some listener reaction to the third Trump assassination attempt on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, I want to hear what you think about the third assassination attempt on President Trump. The reaction, your reaction to the reaction. How do we stop this from happening in the future? Is this just going to keep happening in the future? A lot of unanswered questions here. Couple of emails have come down about this. Justin says, James, as a libertarian, I'm surprised you are wanting to curtail the political rhetoric. I submit there's no such thing as hate speech. Either we have free speech or no speech. This is, in my opinion, just another layer on top of the anti-Semitic slop. I invite you to consider either people are responsible for themselves or we just being played. It's all fake and gay. Thanks. Enjoy your show. What? No. I can say we need to curtail the political rhetoric without saying that we need to pass new laws or have government do it. We can self-censor our own speech, or we as a society can decide that we no longer tolerate that. I used the example in the first hour, so I assume you didn't hear it because this was sent in this hour. But Justin, like how we've policed the N-word. No one says the N-word. And if you say the N-word, your life is destroyed. You are either you're going to be completely excluded and ostracized from polite society, or someone's going to have to put you in a room and explain to you why that's wrong and make you promise you're not going to talk like that in the future. This is how we should police the use of the word Hitler or fascist when it comes to just your everyday humstrum mainstream political opponents. I wasn't violating any libertarian principles. I wasn't advocating for a law or a government agency or someone to get arrested or charged with a crime or fined or jailed. I'm saying we, as the people in the private sector, need to tone down the rhetoric, or at least encourage our neighbors to tone down the rhetoric. Another one comes from Eddie. He's saying, you keep saying, why do people keep going after the administration on the right with assassination attempts? I think you're smart enough to know that's incorrect. There was none of this with George W. It's only because of Trump and the hatred he has caused, even though with some of his MAGA base, because of making them go broke with food and fuel prices and continue to separate the left and right. That's right. He's causing it. It's Trump's fault. This is why they keep shooting him. He's such an a-hole. Thanks, bud. Thanks. No, when I say there was none of this with George W., they called him Trump and Hitler. They called Reagan Trump and Hitler. No, they've had this. Maybe we haven't had the wave of attacks, but you can also say that, it hasn't been just Trump. Charlie Kirk, why did he get shot if it's just Trump's an a-hole? Yeah, I think it has something more to do with the rhetoric. Even for the left standards has been inflated to a dangerous level. And I don't know. It's kind of hard to blame Trump for that. Lawrence in Fort Worth. You're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Welcome back, Lawrence.
Thank you, James, for taking my call. This pisses me off. I keep saying we need to go after the people who own MS Now, CNN. We need to talk about the billionaires and the millionaires who are the puppet masters. These damn idiots who out here trying to kill the president. No taxes on tips. No taxes on overtime. This man done did more for the average day worker than any president today. And then when you look at that slime ball Obama, when you look at that brain dead Biden, none of these people were hating on them, but they gonna hate on Trump. I'm gonna tell you this. We need to take this serious. They done declared war. And when somebody declare war, you got to declare war back on them. And if they want to ingratiate themselves with freedom of speech, you got to understand there are consequences to your freedom of speech. And if you're going to go out here and try to hurt somebody like the president, we need to go after their family, their friends. We need to take it seriously.
Okay, hang on a second. I hate to interrupt because you're on such a good roll, Lawrence. But when you say go after, that term's doing a lot of heavy lifting. What do you mean go after them? Go after the CEO of CNN? Go after the families of the people who say this stuff?
Of course. Hey, look, if you live in my house, I'm responsible for your actions. A lot of these people, Charlie Kirk's murderer, he lived at home. Why don't we go after his parents?
Okay, that's what I'm asking. What does go after mean? What do you mean go after?
That means prosecute them. That means take their money. That means devastate them. That means put them in the doghouse. I'm serious, man. Because if they keep,
I think you got a bad example because the guy who shot Charlie Kirk, his family was a bunch of MAGA people, and he conflicted with his parents. You know, because if you have MAGA conservative Christian parents, they kind of frown on it when you have a trans boyfriend.
Well, you know what? If you a MAGA and you got a kid that's doing that, you accountable.
What is accountable? Do we put these people in jail? Do we charge them with a crime?
What's up, like man?
What's up, bro? How you doing there?
Pretty good. Yeah, hey, look at here. We put them in jail. We bankrupt them. We do everything we can. We prosecute them. We bring them on accessory to murder.
Look, Lawrence, here's what I have against about that. Number one is I don't like charging people with crimes for their speech, but also we didn't have to do that to get to people to stop using ethnic slurs. And, I use the N-word as an example. It applies to most ethnic slurs. We as a society...
James, here's the caveat to what you said.
Okay.
I'm a 68-year-old black man from the hood. We frequently use each other and with some white people. And I tell white people this. There's a difference in black folks. You got black folks, and then you got the N-word black folks. You got to call it what it is.
So many white people have gotten fired for saying that. God bless you, Lawrence. That's Lawrence in Fort Worth. Everybody. All right, that's going to do it for the James Show today. Stick around. The great one, Mark Levin, is coming up. If you need more James Show action, I've got the podcast. It's floating around out there on all the 28 different apps you listen to podcasts on, including the one on your iPhone that just says podcast. Type in the James Show there. You can find it. But also find our stuff on social media. We got a lot of good videos and highlights and clips and memes and fun stuff and links and events on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all the things. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.